Hey guys, Coach Oliver here again. Listen, I'm here to talk to you about 5 things you need to know about how to create a winning program. The programs are usually centered around urban environments, but they still render everywhere you want to go. No matter your parent, whether you're an athlete, where your school district, it doesn't matter. There's 5 things you need to know. Let me share with you. Number 1, academics. Academics are important because the smarter the student, the more adjustments an athlete can make on the field. Coaches always want to be able to trust. That's a word that you need to understand. Trusting the athlete. If you trust that a kid can go to class and get their work done, then you can trust that they'll be able to apply that stuff on the field. The number one thing you need to know is that there's standards that colleges are looking for. Those standards have to do with your GPA, your SAT and ACT score, and then the other things that come with it. The most important part is, are you able to apply? Are you able to get the resources you need? Are you able to get the help that you need? But the number one thing is to hold yourself accountable. Are you doing your homework? Are you studying on your own? And are you creating good habits? Academics are important. Where I coached, we went from a school that had a 1.6 GPA, team GPA, to when I finished and retired, we had a 3.2 team GPA. And we did it by really applying academic success lessons to kids who weren't really used to it. First thing we did, we made education practical. We were able to tie the things they love with the things they had to do. The second thing we did, sometimes in urban environments, we aren't really able to give all the resources that may be needed. What we did was we went out and found academic resources outside of our school district. So there were educational learning centers. There were things that kids weren't used to going to. So and also remember, it's hard to really get to places in urban environments because people don't have cars, or you just may use public transportation. So what we did was we had the people come to us. We had those educational centers come to our school district, come to our football field. We did tutoring in locker rooms. We did tutoring at the stadium. We did tutoring wherever we needed to. So academics is very important because if you're not a smart student, chances are you won't be as smart as you want to be on the football field. Number 2, training. Training is important. This day and age, young people really get into being specialization of services, right? So what they'll do is, if you play defense, you want to be a pass rusher. If you play offense, you want to be a wide receiver. Well, we don't really subscribe to that. What we like to do is make what we call the 360-degree athlete, an athlete that's able to do a number of things. Why? Because when it comes to recruiting, it's really hard to say you're going to be what you want to be as opposed to what they want you to be. What do I mean? That means that if I'm playing running back in high school, 9 times out of 10, my heart is set on being a running back and I train for that. Sometimes schools come recruit the best athlete and they want to put them where they need it as opposed to where they want to be. So it's important to make sure that your athletic portfolio is well-rounded. So we, in our district, we really push the kids to wrestle. The linemen and the linebackers wrestle. The running backs play basketball in the off season. A lot of guys play baseball. We just try to make them as athletic as possible so that when it's time to be recruited, you're not being recruited for one thing. You have really had worked the surface of all your athletic possibilities and shown and displayed an ability to be an athlete beyond anything. So training is the most important. Speed, stamina, strength. Just remember those 3. Speed, stamina, strength is what you're looking for. Number 3, social services. Now, this is what we mean by that. A lot of times, especially in urban environments, we draw off of the land, right? We draw off of the people who are willing to help us and give things. The number one thing that we did where I coached was, before we put a football out on that field, our student athletes had to do community services up to about 20 hours to 40 hours. It kind of depends on the year. The reason why that's important is because before you can ask for things, you have to be willing to give things. Also, to be a leader, you have to make sure that everybody, let's say in line and eats before you do. Make sure that the locker room is cleaned up. Make sure that you're doing the things at home that you need to do. That's what we're looking for, leaders, and it comes from starting at the social service part. Are you able to go out there and help your community? Are you able to help carry some groceries for a person, or go sweep up in front of the doorstep of a store? Little things that we do that really, one, help our community, but more intrinsically help us inside. And remember, the more well-rounded an athlete, the more well-rounded person you have. So social services are very important. Don't forget that. Number 4, parent involvement. It's a very tricky subject. Why? Because most of the athletes grow up in households where they've started at the youth level. And a lot of times the youth level calls for parenting or stakeholders or people who care for you to kind of help raise you and be a part of it. The interesting dynamic that changes is, less hands-on when you get to the high school level, because hopefully you have a program, a high school, a coaching staff that really is good at what they do, and they know what the remedy is, right? What the system is. But as far as a parent, it's very, very, very important to not change what's got you there. What do I mean by that? Making sure that these kids are going to class every day, making sure that they're prepared to go to school with a full belly of food and clothes are clean and focus on what they need to do. A lot of times our kids in urban environments are latchkey kids. What do I mean by that? They're kids that kind of let themselves in and out the house because parents are either at work, working double shifts, aren't able to provide. Some of the kids got to take their little brother and sister to school before they get to school. So as much as we can do to make sure that the doors are open for the success of that particular child really matters. So it calls for parent involvement in a way that really is conducive and supportive of the success of the child. So we're here for you, and that's what we did. We created tutoring programs, not just for kids, but for parents. We created food programs for kids so that now the kids didn't have to go home hungry. They ate before they left the system, before they left the field, before they left the program. They were fed. And that's where we kind of coordinated with parents to find out what was needed and then what we needed to provide to make the parenting situation easy. And the second thing is parents, coaches, mentors are all on the same page. They got to lock in. They got to work together. When something doesn't happen at home, the parent tells the coach deals with the kid as well. When things happen in school, the school calls the home, and now you got a trifecta. School, home, coaches that are all working together. So parenting is very important. Don't forget that. Number 5 is school. It's very important for school districts to understand the dynamics are not just about rolling out a football or providing the opportunity. A lot of times it's important for school districts to understand that kids want to feel pride in what they do and how they look and what they say. Now we hold them to standards academically, we hold them to standards socially, but sometimes school districts kind of get involved with themselves a little bit more and they don't hold themselves accountable. What do I mean? School districts have to make sure that every environment, athletically or educationally, is clean, safe, and secure. At the end of the day, kids don't want to, parents don't want to, athletes don't want to have to clean up their own environments, right? Picking up things off the football field, not making sure that everything is as safe as it needs to be. The second part, there's an obligation that we make sure that these student athletes really represent themselves and their families and their communities right. Well, if you don't provide the right things for them, making sure that they look well, instead of wearing jerseys, sometimes offer polos. Do some things that think outside the box, because we know that resources are long and short in urban environments, and we got to create better environments for these kids. All right, so we talked about the top 5 things that are important to know about how to create a successful football program in an urban environment. Now, later on throughout content, we'll be sharing in particular a little bit of those things, a little bit more long in the tooth, meaning talking about parenting, talking about athletic training, talking about social services. But right now, if you like this type of content and you want to go interact with us and go back and forth and maybe give us some suggestions and some experiences, like, share, do all the things that we need to do so we can interact with you going forward.